Hi, I'm Jošt Hobič, archaeologist and volunteer in a non-government organization Zavod. We are a group of people who are promoting cultural and natural heritage through various activities, workshops, events to all generations. I'm also a leader of a project called Landscape of Ancestors, where its main aim is promoting archaeological heritage. Our main activity is guided tours to various archaeological sites in western Slovenia in Karst region. And today I want to show you one archaeological site. But first, as probably many of you don't know much about Slovenia and archaeology from Slovenia, let me tell you something about it. Slovenia is a small country situated in Central Europe. Despite its small size, Slovenia is really rich in archaeological heritage. We have over 3,600 registered archaeological sites in the National Register of Cultural Heritage. As you can see on a map, some areas of Slovenia are really dense with archaeological sites. Hillfort Ajdovščina is located in a southwest corner of Slovenia in a region called Brkini. Even glance on a map with archaeological sites shows us that this landscape is full of archaeology, mainly prehistoric hill forts, Roman villas, some castles, and of course, as this is karstic area, a lot of archaeological sites that are inside caves. So now we know where we are. But before we go and to visit prehistoric and late Roman hill fort Ajdovščina that's just behind me up there on a hill, I would like to tell you something about this place that it's called Jezero, in translation lake. Why is it so special? Well, it's on the top of a hill. First of all, a lake on top of a hill. There is still a freshwater spring on top of this hill, but what they did in prehistoric times, they built a dam. You can see all these stones. They built a dam that runs all around it, also here, and they deepened all this area that you see. And they made it like a big pond, and they use this water for washing, cooking, cleaning. You know, you have a major settlement up there on a hill, and here you have a big reservoir of water. It just started to rain. Perfect. Well, we archaeologists are not made of sugar. What I would like to tell you about this lake, Jezero, it's also that it has a ritual nature to it. We don't have any evidences of, archaeological evidences of deposits, ritual deposits or something like that, but we have a really strong folklore and tales about this site, and it's about a creature that lives here. It's half serpent, a body of a serpent, and a head of a rooster, and it guards this lake where the treasure is hidden. And later on, in medieval times, it kind of became a personified devil here, so they brought a cross up here once a year, so they would protect the villages down in the valley from his dangers. It's really interesting because this creature, it's only found in tales and in folklore just in this area. So archaeologists presume that this must be a tradition, that it's all the way from prehistoric time. We're gonna start our climb towards prehistoric and late Roman Hillfort Ajdovščina from Jezero, where we are now, up the path towards the entrance to the Hillfort. Now I'm walking on a path that leads towards the entrance of Hillfort, Ajdovščina. But on my left side, on your right side, we can see all these piles of stone. You see? All these are remains of a defensive wall that was primarily built in the Iron Age, in prehistoric times, but later on was upgraded during a late Roman age, when the whole site was again fortified and resettled. Now this is now, I don't know, 3 meters high, over 3 meters high. It must be in at least this part where the entrance is. The wall was at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 meters high. And here I'm nearing the entrance. I'm standing in the middle of it. Even today, road goes up the Hillfort as it went up in late Roman times. And on either side of me, on left and on my right, there were big defensive towers. And let's check one. I'm standing now at the base of a remains of a tower. There were two on each side of a main entrance that we just came up to the Hillfort, and you can see it's quite substantial mound of stone. Now I'm like on the top of it. It was like a big tower. I mean, probably rectangular, and it was facing that direction. And all this that I'm walking now on the top of remains of a wall. You have to know that probably the base was made out of stone and soil, but on top it was built out of stone. And now, because it collapsed, it kind of forms like a rampart, but actually it was a wall. And it runs all around. Now we are inside Hillfort, Ajdovščina, and I'm walking on a line of a street from late Roman phase of this settlement. On either side of me, I have remains of buildings that are connected to each other like terraced houses. Here is one, and then here is another, and on the other side we have one, and there is another one, here is another one, and here, a little bit less visible, another one. So they were all made of those stone, as you will see in them, as I show you one, how it looks like now on a surface. I'm inside one of the houses that I showed you before when I was walking up the street, and all these stones around me that you see are remains of a wall of a house. Probably these houses were built out of the lower floor was built out of walls were built out of stone, and the upper floor was built out of timber. And just to show you how big these houses were, here I'm standing in a corner, and this is the back wall of a house. Here is a wall that was over two houses, you know, they were connected to each other. So we have much bigger pile of stones because basically we have two collapsed walls here. And then here we still can see remains of a front wall that's fronted on a street. Here is a street, and here is the wall, and we can see all these stones are kind of aligned So probably these are still in situ remains of a wall. Let's take a short recap of what we saw with the help of LiDAR data. Here we have a LiDAR visualization of Hillfort Ajdovščina. It looks magnificent. The archaeological remains are so well preserved on this archaeological site that are clearly visible on LiDAR even to untrained eyes, especially the remains of buildings. I have outlined archaeological remains that are visible on LiDAR visualization. In red colors we have remains of buildings. In violet color are the remains of a tower, and in a blue color are remains of a defensive wall. All archaeological features that we see on LiDAR visualization inside Hillfort Ajdovščina are definitely from a late Roman phase. If we remove the LiDAR visualization, the patterns of streets that run between the rows of houses are clearly visible. Hillforts are usually prehistoric in Slovenia, but as I said, during the late Roman period, when Roman Empire slowly collapsed, people moved from plains, from villages, back to the fortified places of their ancestors. Now I'm standing on a defensive wall that runs all around the Hillfort. As you can see here, it's quite smaller because the slope of a hill behind me is much steeper than on the site where we entered the Hillfort. Usually when people ask me who lived here, especially in prehistoric times, I don't know the answer, because we don't have any inscriptions, any names. If we have some names, are some broad names that Roman used to call that people that lived there. But for this site we have. It's really interesting because they were called Rundikti, and their name was inscribed on a stone in a judgment, a court dispute, in a judgment of a court dispute about the border between this tribe and one senator that owned land in Istra. So we know the name of these peoples that live here from prehistoric times. Now, they continued to use the name also during Roman times, late Roman period, and later on, when they resettled back into a valley, when Slavs came in early Middle Ages, they continued to use the name because the village below the Hillfort Ajdovščina, it's called Rodik. It has a certain name connection between the name of a tribe, Rundikti, and a village called Rodik. This really is one of the few places where we can say in Slovenia who lived here by name. So we are nearing the end of our visit to prehistoric and late Roman Hillfort Ajdovščina. For the end, I would like to show you excavated walls that were excavated by students from faculty from Ljubljana. Still standing walls of a house. You can see this was all covered with soil, and they excavated all. And probably it's still going down a little bit. So, this is it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the whole our visit to Hillfort Ajdovščina, and see you next time. Bye!